This is a presentation about advanced transition procedures, and it's generic for all aircraft. First, some definitions. The transition altitude, that is at or below the transition altitude, use QNH, so you fly at an altitude, and it's relevant for climbing only usually. Transition level, that's at or above the transition level, use standard, so you fly the flight level, and that's relevant for descending only usually. Some notes. The transition altitude or transition level can vary depending on the atmospheric pressure. The TA or TL can vary by airport, and setting the wrong baroreference is a safety issue. There are two different SOPs to change to QNH or standard, and this depends on your company. Method 1 is to change to QNH or standard at the transition level itself, or the transition altitude, and that is used by Airbus, or it's the standard Airbus procedures. Method 2, that's to change to QNH or standard when you're cleared to a flight level or altitude, so before you reach the transition. In this presentation, mostly method 1 is used, unless otherwise noted. And method 1 creates problems if close airports have large transition differences. This is quite rare, but it does happen. And method 2 creates problems if your cleared level is changed back to an altitude or flight level. So there's not a perfect SOP for this. They all have their own advantages and disadvantages. And never change to standard to QNH when crossing a terminal area, which is usually 40 miles, and you always want to check with ATC. If in doubt, confirm with ATC. First, normal common transition altitude operations. So you set standard when passing the transition altitude for method 1. So here you are climbing, ATC says, for example, climb fly level 180, and then you wait until you pass in transition altitude, which is 9,000 feet in this case, and that's when you change from QNH to standard. And I have a video to illustrate that. Okay, so here we are climbing, the transition is at 9,000 feet in this case, and we wait until we pass transition. There we go, QNH will flash on this aircraft, and we set standard, and that's it, very easy. Common transition level operation, similarly, set QNH when passing the transition level for method 1, so you're descending, and ATC says descend to 5,000 feet, okay, so when you pass transition level, which is flight level 100 in this case, that's when you change from standard to QNH, and I'll illustrate this with the next video. Right, so we're descending and we cleared to 7,000 feet. The transition is at flight level 100, so we wait until we pass that, skip ahead a bit. And some aircraft like the Airbus, the standard will, on the display will flash as a reminder. There we go, it places. So we're changing to the QNH, and that's it, very easy. So for method 2, for the transition altitude, there's a problem with the re-clearance. So first, let's say you're cleared to a flight level, so you set standard straight away. Then you are re-cleared back to an altitude, so you have to not forget to set QNH again, change back to QNH. For example here, so you're climbing, ATC says climb flight level 180, so with method 2 you change to standard straight away, set standard, and then ATC says you are re-cleared 8,000 feet, so don't forget to set back to QNH, because it's an altitude, not a flight level. Similarly, for method 2, for the transition level, the re-cleared issue. So first you are cleared to an altitude, so you set QNH right away for method 2, and then if ATC says that you're re-cleared to a flight level, don't forget to set back to standard. For example here, you are descending, ATC says descend to 5,000 feet, which is an altitude, so you set QNH. Again, this is for method 2, and then if ATC says you are re-cleared to flight level 110, don't forget to set standard because it's a fly level. So if you level off, you're at the correct level. Leveling off at transition altitude. This is also part of the normal procedure, but sometimes done wrong. So this is still an altitude if you level off at the transition altitude. So you have to keep QNH even if it flashes on the display. For example, here you're climbing, ATC says climb 9,000 feet. 9,000 feet is an altitude, so you have to keep QNH. And I will illustrate that with the next video. Okay, so we are climbing to 9,000 feet. That's also the transition altitude, but it's still an altitude and not a fly level. So what will happen as we approach the cleared altitude, that this QNH number will start flashing on the display. Now, not all aircraft will do that, but the Airbus does, as a reminder, which is generally good, but it can be distracting and it can be misleading in certain situations, and this is one of them. So as you approach your cleared altitude, which is the transition, in this case also 9,000 feet, this number here will start flashing. There it goes. And what I sometimes see on the line, that people go like, oh, I'm at the transition altitude and it's flashing, and that's why I'm gonna set standard. But that is not correct, because you are not clear to a fly level, you are clear to an altitude. So just let it flash, don't do anything, don't change to standard, just keep the situation like this. That is the correct way to do that. And then once you are cleared to a fly level, okay, now you start climbing, and now you are actually passing transition, and then you can change to standard. So press the standard button here, now you're on standard, and now this is the correct situation. Similarly for the descent, level off at the transition level. So ATC says descent flight level 100, and this is still a fly level, so keep standard even if it flashes on the display, same as before. So I'll show this with the next video. So we're descending to flight level 100, that is also the transition level. And same as before, what will happen as you approach the transition level, but which is also your cleared level, the standard here on the display will start to flash as a reminder. But again, we are not clear to an altitude, we are clear to a flight level 100. So we have to keep standard here, even though if it started to flash. And again, this is misleading. It looks like, okay, I have to change to QNH, but that is not correct, again, because you're clear to a flight level 100. So keep it at standard, let it flash, don't be distracted by it. And once you are cleared to an altitude, so now we are cleared to an altitude, 7,000 feet, and we're gonna descend, and now we can change to QNH. So we're setting QNH, and now this is correct. Okay, now it starts to become a little bit more complicated. Let's say ATC climbs you to a flight level which is at or below the transition altitude. So consider the situation below. So normally the transition level is at transition altitude is at 18,000 feet, and the transition level is at flight level 190. That's the normal situation. But now ATC says climb to flight level 180. Well, that doesn't really make sense, because on the chart it says 1,000 feet is a transition altitude. So what ATC should say is climb to 1,000 feet, but it's not what they said. They said flight level. So in that case, you have to confirm with them. Confirm with ATC. Confirm flight level 180. We are cleared to a flight level, and ATC says affirm, you're clear to a flight level. Climb flight level 180. So this is somewhat non-standard, and this will happen when there's aircraft nearby which have a very big difference in the transition altitude and transition level. So in that case, here there is no transition anymore. So what you have to do then, set standard without a delay and do not wait for the published transition altitude, and again confirm with ATC. So I will show this in the next video. Okay, so we are climbing here. We are maybe initially climb to 18,000 feet, and we change the controller, and the next controller says you climb, clear to climb fly level 180, and you confirm with them. Confirm it's a fly level, affirm fly level, climb fly level 180. Okay, so there's no transition anymore because you already it's just not relevant. So what you do then is you change to standard straight away. Don't wait for fly level 180, because if you're level at that number here and then you change to standard, you might already have busted your altitude, depending what the difference is between the QNH and standard. So you don't want to do that. You want to change to that correct number, or the standard in this case, straight away. Do not wait for it. Next situation, change from QNH to standard while flying level. Okay, so with Airbus aircraft, alt blue will not arm if you do this. So what you have to do to fix it, move the altitude back far away and then back. So for example here, you are clear to climb 17,000 feet. That's below the transition, so it's an altitude. So we're climbing and then we're flying level at 17,000 feet. And if you fly outside of the sector from the current terminal area, then ATC might say, okay, change to flight level 170. And okay, so you can set a standard in that case, but what will happen next is a bit better to explain on the video. Okay, so let's begin here. We're climbing to an altitude, 17,000 feet. Okay, no problem. So far so good. Everything is normal. So we're leveling off here. Let me just skip ahead a bit. So we're level, and then ATC says, okay, change to fly level 170. Okay, so we change to standard. But what will happen now, if you go to vertical speed and set it a bit higher, I do not recommend at all to change to open climb or open descent, depending on the situation you're in. Use vertical speed. It's a small change. But what you see in this case is that alt is not armed. So what will happen, it will fly straight through that. And then you can fix that by going to VS0. I show exactly at that number, but it's a bit fiddly and not exactly the proper way to do it. So the way to fix that, first let's go back to VS0 to make sure the aircraft doesn't bust the altitude. And what you do then, you move the altitude back a lot further away. And then you move it back to the cleared fly level, 170. Now if you change to vertical speed, alt will arm. So now it will just start to climb, and it will go into alt star and alt without any problem. Okay, and here you might get the standard flashing as a reminder, because the aircraft gets confused, doesn't know what's going on here. Okay, but that's okay. So here again, so we go to alt star and then alt, and it captures the altitude just fine. So similarly, changing from standard to QNH while flying level. But same problem, alt blue will not arm, and you have to move the altitude book far away and then back. So let's say we're departing from a different airfield, climb flight level 140 as usual, pass transition, okay, sets standard. So now you're at the flight level, you're flight level 140, and then ATC contacts you and says maintain 14,000 feet on QNH 1018. Okay, so you set QNH 1018, and then we have the same issue as before, which I'll show in the next video. Okay, so we're at fly level 140 here, we're at standard, and we contact the next controller, or perhaps with the same controller, and we change the area where the transition changes. So we change to 14,000 feet with the QNH here, and again, if we just use a vertical speed, alt will not arm, and that's we cannot have because it will bust the altitude. So we go back to VS0 first, and then we move the altitude back far below and then back up to the cleared altitude, 14,000 feet, and now alt will arm, and we can use vertical speed without any problem. It will start to descend, it will go into alt star, and then alt without any issues. But again, this is only for Airbus aircraft. And there might be other aircraft which have this with this same problem. Not sure about that, but if you fly an Airbus aircraft, you have to be very aware of this. There you go, alt, and problem solved. And to show the same issue in with the real video, you can see that here we are at flight level 160 because we're on standard, and now ATC contacts us to tell us that now we have to maintain 16,000 feet on QNH 1008. Okay, no problem. We set QNH 1008. There will be a small difference here. Again, if we just change vertical speed, you see here alt will not arm, so that you don't want to do that. So VS0 initially, we move the altitude back far away up, and then back to your cleared altitude, and now you can use vertical speed because Alt will arm in this case, and it will just go to Alt star and Alt without any problem, as you will see here. There you go, Alt star, Alt cruise in this case. So yeah, that works the same way. Next, change back to QNH when already past the transition altitude. Okay, so this is again an unusual situation. So you have to set QNH without delay and do not wait for the transition altitude in this case. For example, ATC says climb flight level 140. Okay, so far so good. When you pass in transition, it sets standard, and so now we're on a flight level. And while you are still climbing, ATC says climb to 16,000 feet. Okay, but you were already on standard, so you're on a flight level, and now so you're climbing towards an altitude, which is unusual, but it can happen again if there's airport near to each other, but with a very big transition differences, like in this case. And ATC will give you the QNH. So you have to set back to QNH, and again there is no transition anymore, so you have to set it straight away after you get the instruction, which I'll show in the next video. Okay, so we are climbing to flight level 140, so we're waiting till we pass transition, which in this case is 9,000 feet. So once, let's skip it a bit, once we pass transition here, we set, we go to standard. Okay, so far so good, climbing flight level 140, and now ATC says you are clear to climb flight level 16,000 feet. Okay, so that's an altitude and not a flight level. So that's somewhat the other way around as you normally would do, because you normally would climb to a flight level, but now we're climbing to an altitude. So okay, we set 16,000, and then straight away change to the QNH, because 16,000 is an altitude. So you don't want to wait for any transition because there is none. You already passed that. So again, this is a very non-standard situation, but it does definitely happen for real. Rarely, but it does happen. Next, descending from an altitude to a flight level. Again, this is unusual because normally it's the other way around. So again, in this case, set standard without delay. Do not wait for the transition level. For example, you are clear to climb 17,000 feet. That's below the transition. So it's an altitude, and either way, it's whatever ATC says. So if they say it's an altitude, it's an altitude. Okay, so we are flying level at 17,000 feet, but because the other airfield nearby has a completely different transition, this creates problems. And now here ATC says descend to flight level 110. Now well, that's odd, because first we're on an altitude here. Now they say that we have to descend to a flight level, but the question is, when do you set standard? Again, there is no transition because that you already passed it here. So you have to set standard straight away. So to illustrate that with the next video. Okay, so we're at 17,000 feet here on the QNH, and next we are clear to descend, and so we descend to flight level 110, but it's a flight level again, so we have to set standard straight away, and again this is the other way around as you would normally do. So there we go, we set standard, and now we are descending to a flight level, and the aircraft might get confused and make the standard symbol here the flash, but that is just a distraction because what you do here is correct in this case. Next, descending from a departure QNH to an arrival QNH, and again this is a somewhat unusual situation. And you want to set the arrival QNH without delay once you are clear to another altitude. Do not wait for the transition level, and also the problem with this is there's no reminder. Again, if you fly in an Airbus aircraft, the display will flash QNH or standard respectively as a reminder, but you will not get this in this case. So for example, you are clear to climb 17,000 feet, and that happens to be on the departure QNH. 1018 here, so your flight level at 17,000 feet, and then ATC says descend to 8,000 feet. Okay, so you go from one altitude to another altitude, but the problem is it's on a different QNH. So ATC says descend to 8,000 feet, QNH 1008. Make sure you ask if they don't tell you. So if they just tell you descend to 8,000 feet, you hang on, this is a different airport. So ask them, confirm QNH. Okay, QNH 1008. Now when do you set QNH then? Again, there is no transition because you already passed it, or there is none here. So in that case, you want to set the QNH straight away. And I'll show that in the next video. Okay, so we are at altitude 17,000 feet, QNH 1018, and we are descending to the next airport, very close, and which is on a different QNH. So there's no changing to standard or QNH, we just go from one QNH to the other. So we're descending here to 8,000 feet on a different QNH. So we set the new QNH of the other airport, and there's no reminder at all. The QNH will not flash here, so make sure that you don't land with the wrong QNH here. So last one, descending to an altitude without a transition altitude. Again, an unusual situation. So what you want to do is set QNH without a delay and do not wait for the transition altitude. So for example, your ATC climbed you to fly level 160, so far so good. We're climbing to fly level 160, past the transition, 9,000 feet here, and we set standard. Okay, so we reach fly level 160, flying level, and then ATC says descend to 12,000 feet QNH 1018. Now this looks like a normal situation. You're at the flight level and you are descending to an altitude, but the difference is that normally you will set QNH when you pass a transition level, but here you don't pass the transition level because you're flying level, and then now you have to descend to an altitude. So when do you set the QNH then? Well, the answer is right away, because there is no specific altitude which you normally pass. Normally this is at 8,000 feet, but because you're already below that, you have to set the QNH straight away. So again, it looks like a normal situation, but actually it's not, and I'll show this in the last video. Okay, so we're at the flight level 160, we're on standard, and now ATC clears us to the next altitude, and we have to set QNH straight away. So we're clear to 12,000 feet, and because there is no transition here, we have to set the QNH straight away without any delay. So there we go, we've set QNH 1018, and we are descending to 12,000 feet. So that's it, thank you. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below.